Welcome back, everybody, to the PP1 podcast. Welcome to Smoking Noggin and the Dungeon out in Burnaby. We got Brady. We got Ted. We got Ryan. The boys are back. The boys are back in town.
And we're buzzing.
And we are buzzing on a summer episode, no less. You should follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We are a part of the Dean Blundell Network. We are partnered with Vanna. Will you please? Dad, that's your cue. Dad, that's your cue. We are partnered with Summer Skates. Thank you. That was just perfect too. Like not even looking around. I love it. We got a lot to talk about. There's Canucks talk. I mean, not really meaningful Canucks talk, but we're going to stretch this one out somehow. We always seem to do it. We got lots. We got a little Brock. We got a little bit of Petey comments. Apparently that's a big deal. We all seem to feel that that's important news. It's like when someone gets a haircut, it's a big deal in Canucks land. So we're going to chat about that. We're going to talk about the power play. Travis Green was on the Vancast earlier, and if you guys heard that, there's some nice little tidbits on there. We have a guest as well, Paul DeBron, formerly of TSN 1040. I believe was the producer of Pratt and Taylor, but I will probably be wrong because he'll correct me on that when he gets here. We're going to talk about what everybody's been talking about the last day or so, lawnmower simulator.
Hell yeah.
That's literally the only reason I decided to bring him on, because he's a lawn enthusiast and he's a dad. And, well, not much excites us anymore in life.
Talk about like a total upgrade for gaming systems, eh? Like the PlayStation 5, the new Xbox. You can literally
cut your
grass, and it feels like real life, you know?
It's like they had a little while. They had like pigeon simulator, and they had like dog simulator. Like now we're doing lawnmower. So there's not even I don't even think you can get the John Deere in there. Like what's the point?
It's probably like
two settings. Like you got turtle, and you can, when you get a little better, you can throw it into rabbit.
Yeah. And it sometimes gets stuck. Like what you have to like hit all the buttons to move it to reverse somehow. Because if you go to ride them,
you just mash. Yeah, you just mash.
Yeah, and like it's modeled. It looks like a little bit after the Tiger Woods game. There's like a pro mode or like pro view. So like if you miss if you miss like a little landing strip, like when you hit the L1 button and it does like the path
the backspin or whatever.
Yeah. All of a sudden it's ridiculous. And yet I had just finished cutting the lawn yesterday and I saw this. And I was like hardcore geeked out for this. So anyway, when DeBron gets on here, we'll have him on for a little lawn talk, because why wouldn't you talk about that on a Canucks hockey podcast? So, boys, how are you guys doing, Brady?
It's the dog days of summer, isn't it, Ryan?
Yeah,
I'm good, guys.
How excited I am. This is stupid.
No, I'm good. No, not too much to report. Just been working, grinding, and happy to get back on the podcast. That 1 week hiatus was kind of sucked. We've been on a bit of a hot streak here with our podcast, so I'm glad to be back and glad to be talking some hockey again.
It's DeBron's just looking for a camera or in a clean spot to. It's an inside joke if you were here before we all started. So we're all looking for a good
craps out. There you go. Wi-Fi's working.
Yeah, I guess so. Something like that. Ted, you're doing good. You're at the office.
I'm at the office. The AC is not working. It's currently 41 degrees in here.
So
we're dealing. It's okay. No big deal.
Hotter than a set of twin babies.
No kidding.
Any chance you get to quote the M based on heat, then you take it.
You do.
Yeah, 100%.
It's about to be. I mean, it is so hot that it could be mom spaghetti in here shortly.
Ooh, bro.
I love my mom's spaghetti. It's the best.
It's like, wow, how long?
I'm always like, I know your mom, and I can only assume that she cooks wonderful spaghetti because she's a wonderful lady.
It's her go-to meal.
But I'm always suspect on your food takes now. Ever since that time we talked about burgers, and you were like, I like that frozen burger from the frozen section, and you just put it on the grill, and then you get a bun, and then you put ketchup and mustard on it. It's so good.
No mustard, just ketchup.
I like meat.
I'm real plain.
So you like baby burger at A&W, basically.
Yeah, or like the teen burger. Add a little extra bacon on there.
Yeah.
So now bacon's involved.
I'm actually a triple O's guy, and I don't care what anybody says. It's like hands down by far the best fast food burger out there.
So we had this conversation a little while back. That was when Jenna was on. Were you on for that episode, Brady? I can't remember.
I can't recall. I want to say that I was there.
Yeah,
or maybe I wasn't. I'm not sure. But she's awesome. No, you guys talked. I listened to it. I listened to that one. You guys talked a lot of food that episode.
We did. So Jenna Fabulous, she of the awful food takes, mostly because she likes potatoes. We talked about the best fast food burger, and I had to go with Triple O's too. I'm with you 100 on that. It's got to be Triple O's. Although, is it fast food? Because it takes a long time to get.
It's starting to get that way now, right?
It does take like 5-6 minutes. Yeah, I had to pull over to the side, even though there was nobody behind me. She was like, "Yeah, just pull over to the parking lot," and no one came through for like the whole time that I was there. Right?
They just don't want to make contact.
Just doing my civic duty.
Yeah, that's the vibe, right? When you get the pull over, please pull over to the side, sir. You're like, fuck, now I'm committing to more time happening here.
Yeah.
Can I just wait here and just stare at you through the glass while you try to attempt to cook my burger faster because I'm sitting here staring at it? I don't want to pull over.
I've done that at Arby's. Not good. You're just sitting there. They won't force you to leave. You just sit there. So if you order chicken, I usually get the chicken. I don't get the rubber burgers anymore from Arby's. And you just sit there.
Like the cordon bleu. That's
I like the chicken bacon Swiss myself.
That's
the
also
buffalo
very
chicken.
good. Yeah.
But yeah, you just sit there and you just wait. And you wait. And you wait. And it's a long, long wait. At least with Triple O's, they tell you to like go pull over and you're thinking, okay, I'm setting myself up for greatness right now. At least you know what you're about to get. I mean, I love Arby's, but it's no Triple O's.
Arby's sauce and curly fries is like my favorite.
It's done.
But
perfect.
But I mean, like the only thing that might be better than that is just regular Triple O's fries with Triple O's sauce, right? That might be just so good. Anyways, that's a lot of food talk.
Yeah, it was. Before DeBron gets here, there was a big rumor last week. Did everyone see this? That kind of they thought leaked or something that Besser shaved his locks. Did you guys see this?
I saw that, and I thought I was having a nightmare.
And it's like, but it's so true, right? Like, remember when Luongo got his haircut, and it was a big deal. Like,
everything's a big deal in Vancouver.
Yeah. So like Besser, like there's a rumor that he shaved his head, and I'm thinking, no, this is news. This is news. We need to have this either confirmed or denied. And if anybody's seen a clip, he still has those luscious Prince locks. So it's been debunked. It was on Mythbusters on Twitter, and it's been debunked.
It was debunked at the beauty.
Yeah. Well played.
And what a beauty. Holy. I know it's no, like, they don't try very hard, but he lights it up every year, no matter what. And those jerseys, they're sick. They're freaking sick. Like I would buy one.
They're a sick pick.
There you go. Hey.
I'm trying to continue this rhyming that we've got. So Brock Besser didn't get his hair cut. I guess we've got some time to before he gets here to maybe talk about Brady. What was the big news of the day?
Well, I don't know if it was big news per se. I mean, Canucks Twitter sure made it seem that way.
Yeah.
I'm sure the whole world's Canucks world's heard about it by now. But Pettersson, I guess he had an interview, like a Swedish interview, so it was translated over, and he just kind of said a few things that any sort of Canucks fan on Twitter could easily take the wrong way and make it blow up.
Can you paraphrase?
Well, I got the quote right here. How about that?
Okay, do the quote.
Translate it. I'll say it in Swedish for you first. All right.
Let's put a pin in it because this is a weighted subject. Our guest is here. He's here for a little time, not a long time, and holy crap! Okay, you guys are gonna love this. Ted, I think I lost the title for best mustache.
I think you did.
Holy cow, man!
Paul DeBron, welcome to the PP1 podcast. That mustache can stay.
It's we got hit with the old mandatory mask at work, so a bunch of us grew them, and I'm the walrusiest.
Holy, so your mask, you've got that on. It's like coming out the sides like a poorly trimmed.
That's the worst part. It is. It's starting to look like like a big gal's bikini zone down there when it comes out of the mask.
Oh man,
I did know that feeling for a little while, and I've kind of trimmed it down. So that looks great.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Thanks for coming on. You've been a busy guy on Twitter, mostly for your car takes.
True.
You're now in Nanaimo. That's correct?
Yes, sir. God's country.
it's not too shabby out there. And I mean, you guys are kind of island boys too, right? Ted, did you live on the island at all?
I grew up in like Campbell River, so just like a little ways up the road. And when I was little, like I just didn't know any better. So Nanaimo was actually the Nanaimo.
It was the big city. We still get that here, though. You'll talk to people from Parksville. They're coming in Nanaimo. That's a trip to the big city. They got their Costco run, everything. Got to fit it all in one day.
Yeah, there's like they always had different stuff playing at the movie theater, so maybe we'd make the trip up to Nanaimo, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was good, good stuff. Yeah, I love that spot.
They had the Lion King on. No one else did. Brady, sorry.
I spent 3 years on Gabriel Island. I know there's like a half an hour ferry ride from Nanaimo, but yeah, that's where I was at for a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great spot. You got family out there? How did you end up there?
Me? No.
Paul, sorry.
Nanaimo, no. It's my wife is originally from there, so we met over in Vancouver, and then I guess my parents retired in Chemainus. We'd come over here for a visit about once a month, and it was they're giving houses away over here at the time. So once 1040 swung the axe, I moved right over.
Yeah, it was an easy call, I guess, at that point.
Easy call.
Yeah.
Now, totally. You're slinging vehicles out there. Looks like you're doing okay. You got a van for sale, I think, too.
Okay. Yeah, I got a van. Anybody want to buy a caravan? That's move around, get that in the background. 2016, not a lot of K on it. Just park down the street there, keeping it minty. 55,000 K.
Free advertising for anybody that watches our absolutely killing it show. You get
if you say you found out about it through the PP1 podcast, maybe you'll get a bit of a discount on it.
I'm going to throw in the remaining factory warranty for free if you buy it from this podcast.
Yeah, hashtag like PP110 for 10% off.
Yeah.
Oh, let's not get crazy here.
I feel like if you're going to use the word minty and caravan in the same sentence, then you're guaranteed to sell it. I mean, you're good.
I defy you to find a better kept Dodge Grand Caravan, because I would agree. Most of the time, it's a cheap wagon. It's a beater with a heater. People run them into the ground. But I mean, this one, it was well kept. It was dealer maintained. Little old lady known as my wife drove it to church once a week. You're in good shape with that thing.
Like this is already like this again. This is what people do here. First of all, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Very random request this morning, and it had nothing to do with literally anything that we do for a living. But I sent you the clip this morning, the lawnmower simulator, and you're all about keeping that
incredible.
You're all about keeping that yard
here. We're pretty green down the side there.
Mm-hmm.
Squeeze one of the Camaros into it while we're at it, but yeah, we're pretty green down the side there.
So you're into your Kentucky Blues. You're into keeping it mean and lean. You're fertilizing like a king.
Exactly.
What did you think about this game? Like, were you like dadding out as much as humanly possible when you saw it?
I thought it looked incredible. Because I think like most guys, I've always wanted a riding lawnmower, right? But I mean, I don't have enough lawn to warrant having I got 8,000 square feet. It's not a ton of space. It doesn't warrant a riding mower, nor do I have space to keep one. But I mean, that game looked incredible. The guy's dropping the roller down. I'm assuming he's got a brush attachment. You're leaving the ballpark stripes across it. Fantastic.
This is what happens, right? Once we're too old to not fit in Power Wheels anymore, it becomes the Ride 'em lawnmower.
It just becomes a whole series of toys. You get a couple of cars, and then you get some lawnmowers. You can go back in my shed. I've got different weed eaters for different tasks, and it just happens.
So what I noticed, and I haven't seen like the full rundown on this game. Brady, I sent it to him, and he goes, "Please, why did you send this to me?" And rightfully so. I mean, yes, if we take it all out of context, it's not exactly going to be the highest selling video game, but maybe it will. Maybe it's just intriguing. But I don't think you can do stadiums. I don't think you can do like ball stadiums or EPL or something like that. It didn't look good anyway. Which is like that's the thing. Like you want to get the contract for like the MLB All-Star game. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Like mow that Mariner logo into center field, all that, paint over where the right fielder's been standing, picking his ass all season long. Mm-hmm. All the tricks of the trade. Absolutely, you want to do that.
So I didn't see that, and I was a little bit bummed out. I thought, I don't have an Xbox, and if it's on like PC or something, maybe I kind of want to buy this game. But
that's the first version update. I'm sure it'll be there.
Yeah, it's probably the first firmware, whatever. And then
I can't wait.
And did you see? So they've got. I was mentioning to the guys. So they've got. It's called ProView. So after you've done your whole cut, like on Tiger Woods, when you hold down, like you hit the L1 or whatever, and it shows like your putt path. It shows like the little fringes that you've missed on your cut.
Right, exactly. Where you overlapped your lines a little too much. You didn't space out properly going the other way to make the checker pattern. Yeah.
So
I mean, real ballpark, you're going to mow by GPS too, right? So it's always perfect.
So anyway, I just figured like I know you've got you got the grass game on key, and I figure like who else to talk about this than Paul DeBron? And I mean, you brought it instantly with the mustache. The minivan.
I gotta mow that thing.
It's so distinguished. I love it.
It's not terrible, yeah. The gray creeping in the sides there.
You should just let it even go
It's
past.
the fan out that happens naturally. We can't all do that, Paul. So
It's no, that's a lot of it's you know what? Honestly, the mask has been pretty handy for it because you can curl it up in the morning. All your wax is gonna dry into that shape by the time you take it off in the day at night. So honestly, thanks, Bonnie. It's working out pretty good for the mustache.
So you obviously got your robocall before this. So did you get your the Bonnie Henry robocall? Have you guys had that already?
No, what's that?
It's for the town hall. I've got like 3 of them already.
Really?
Like a telephone like town hall. I just got one like half an hour ago. Like, this is Bonnie Henry. Call. You can call in and ask questions. I'm like,
really?
When's this gonna be over? That was gonna be probably.
When's this gonna be over?
So,
exactly. What's the end game here?
What's after Delta? What's the next one?
Man, well, you have to start with E.
Yeah. So
I'm amazed because you'd think they'd work their way through the Greek alphabet. I don't remember hearing an alpha variant, but here we are at Delta.
Yeah. So anyway, that's that. So you might get one, and if you do, like, make sure everybody like tweet it out. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
Maybe just Kelowna. Maybe we're just getting it out here. I don't know. So
who knows? I know we've been blessed on Vancouver Island with this, right? I mean, we're just kind of shut off from the rest of the world, and I mean, there hasn't been a whole lot of it out there. So take care, guys.
That's the way the Islanders like it, right? Or at least that's what it was for me when I was growing up there.
No, that's exactly it. I mean, I mean, they always talk about building a bridge over here, and I mean, really, you don't want to see it until you're ready to retire, and you can sell your house for billions of dollars because suddenly it's an easy commute into downtown Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's key. Well, I mean, that's literally all we brought you on for, and you've been
fair enough, man.
Been a gracious guest. I'm sure you've got family stuff to do, and
family stuff to do, cars to wax.
He's got the dual
mustaches to wax.
Look at that thing. That was you just got that too this summer.
IROC, hey? Tell us a little about the IROC there.
It's not an IROC, it's a 1LE. So I mean, if you're a real Camaro geek, that's the racing prep package. It's got a B4C on top of that. That's your special service law enforcement package. So these guys used to be used, high speed pursuits, highways. I mean, if you really want to nerd out over it, it's one of 589 built. So nice little score. I scooped up off the Lower Mainland, went and picked it up, did a little bit of work to it, not a lot, but I mean, it's here as we get into it, it's in pretty good shape. About 100,000 miles on it. U.S. car, originally out of Washington State.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can confirm it's probably not that much fun.
Yeah. What's that?
You can confirm.
You know what's funny? I like telling people like it's badged up as a rally sports. It's got the big RS on it. I like joking it stands for real slow because it's 1992 fast, but it's 2021 slow.
Okay.
Your minivan, your wife passed you in the minivan, like, shoot, this isn't as.
You know what? Honestly, I think this thing would have a tough time hanging in there with that Grand Caravan.
Isn't that funny?
It could be yours today for a mere $22,000.
There you go, folks. So don't worry, we'll make sure that we tweet the link out after.
It's all good, man. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thank you. See you later.
See you later. Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
I can't believe we got him on to talk about. I didn't realize you were actually going to talk about lawnmower simulator.
That was it. That was the entire sell. I said, "Do you want to talk about Canucks?" He's like, "I haven't paid attention in a while." I'm like, "You know what? All good. Let's just talk about lawn." Sorry, Brady. Let's get back to the Pettersson tweet.
Yeah, back to the Pettersson situation. Like I was saying, it was an interview in Sweden. Got translated over, and there's been some. Twitter's been crazy today. So basically what he said, and I quote, I want to stay there. Big word coming here. I want to stay there now. But I also want to play for a team that's winning and has the chance to go far in the playoffs every year. I feel like we've got a chance to do that next year. If we have that chance when my next deal expires, I don't know. I just want to play where there's a chance of winning. Well, dun, dun, dun.
I mean, it was definitely taken somewhat out of context. Like everybody, like always, takes the juicy part of the quote. And at the same time, yeah, I'm pretty sure he does want to go to a winning team. And if this team does start to suck, like any good athlete would do, he's probably going to ask for, his way out at some point. If things get good, yeah, obviously he's going to want to stay. It's a no-brainer.
Did you say if this team starts to suck or?
So basically what he's saying is if like
'Cause this
the
team
team
hasn't
isn't
been good
good
for a while.
in a few years, if they're not contending when his next contract is up, he's going to want out.
Yeah.
So I think right now kind of he might be a little hesitant on signing long term because he's a free agent in 4 years or UFA in 4 years. So I mean, he might be a little hesitant on signing longer than that right now.
And this goes back to, I was trying to rib Ryan a little bit, being like, if this team starts to suck, he's going to want out. And I'm like, this team is,
You know what I mean? Like if they continue to suck.
But I mean, I guess this harkens back a little bit to what we were talking about last year, right? Like, are they going to try to lock him up for a short-term deal? Are they going to try to lock him up for a long-term deal? Just based on those comments, it sounds like they're trying to lock him up long-term.
Yeah.
Which I believe is probably the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I know we talked about maybe we need to bridge so we can fit him in under, or however that works, but he's not feeling it. I mean, I don't think he's not feeling the level of commitment that I think a player like him and Hughes should be feeling to want to commit to somebody long term. Like, I mean, if you're dating a girl and you want to, it's time to move in, you want to make sure that she's got all her shit in order and she doesn't have a bunch of ugliness going on in the past, and she's got a bunch of debt or whatever. There's a bunch of reasons why, but like, if there's a bunch of issues forefront, then why do I want to commit long term if you haven't got your own shit sorted out? So I can see that. I see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
I just think it's pretty crazy that, like, you know, Canucks Twitter is obviously going to freak out about any little thing, especially something like this.
Like head
But I mean,
shaving.
there's like that, like, there's that total other side of it. Like, isn't that what any hockey player really should say? Like, I mean, doesn't every hockey player want to win? And no one wants to play for a losing team. I mean, you look at the Canucks; they've made playoffs once in the last 6 years. So I mean, what else is he supposed to say?
On a technicality too. They made it on a winning percentage.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? So, and another thing is I thought this was gold. I'm just going to bring this up. I retweeted it on our page. It was from the hockey guy. The goat of YouTube or something like that. Yeah, the hockey guy. Anyway, he goes, Pettersson, and I quote, I wanted to have a chance to win, and the Canucks fans in the Michael Jordan gif. And we took that personally.
It's
pretty good. And it's so true. Yeah. Like, Twitter blew up and freaked out, took it personally. It's like, come on, man.
You know what? I think the last 2 years have definitely, again, we're probably making way more out of this than just like everyone else than we need to. But the last couple of years, there's been a lot of crap that's happened. Like, obviously, I'm still bitter about the Tyler Toffoli thing, but that was one of those big things that really pissed everybody off because they actually thought, hey, we made the playoffs. Why are you deconstructing what we just did when clearly we didn't need those other pieces? And maybe we don't have to have OEL at this point, right?
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier. You have to show a commitment to your star players that you're willing to win. And I don't mean like a commitment like I'm willing to break down this roster in a bunch of areas to make a trade. Like, commitment to continuing to manage it properly and correctly throughout the course of time. Like, you know, involving them on how you're constructing this roster. I mean, when you're doing things like, you know, re-upping or signing a fringe defenseman to a 4-year deal for $2.5 million, that's not a ton of money, but it's $2.5 million committed, which could ultimately impact what you're going to pay Petey and Hughes.
Yeah.
And now we kind of have to go back to the point, like I said earlier, the other episode, that like we can't say this offseason is a success. People were asking me to grade it, and I said you can't grade it because the season is incomplete, right? Mm-hmm. This isn't a complete season until Hughes and Pettersson sign. If all of the great moves or all of the average moves or all of the poor moves, whatever you think, all of the moves that were done by this management group between now and the start of the season are completed, and they still don't somehow lock up Pettersson and Hughes, then this offseason is a failure.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't want to give a grade earlier when I said, you know, what's the grade on this offseason so far? It's incomplete. So we can't measure the success of this offseason until Pettersson and Hughes re-up. If they don't re-up, it's a straight up failure.
And I think they want to see a pattern of improvement, right? Like, just like any team, any fan base, you don't want to see it be like the Rocky Mountains. Like, you want to see it keep climbing, like on The Price is Right. You want to see that yodeling dude go right to the top. You don't want to see it tank because he went too far. You want to keep seeing improvement. And I think that's fair. Like, these are the two guys that are going to matter the most, need to get paid right now, and you have to show them or do whatever kind of sell you need to, saying we would like to sign you or you for this long, and then we're going to bridge the other guy, or however they're going to do it. But they need to have a buy-in too. They need to realize that, hey, yes, these couple things we screwed up. And I think, I mean, just like anything, we'd always love to hear the honest approach. Like, hey, like Naslin, we choked. That was one of those only times we're like, okay, yes, thank you. That's all.
That.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, you showed us some honesty. We're going to stick with you guys. And that for Pettersson and Hughes, I think that's fair, because they're going to come, there's all these negotiations going on right now, and it just kind of get the vibe where, Jim Benning goes to Francesco, and, he's like, Francesco, so we got an agreement with Quinn. He's asked, we got a bridge deal, $8 million a year, but he wants that Wu-Tang album, and there's only one of them, so I can't get that. So I think we might lose Quinn. And then Petey, he just slid me a note, and it said, "Suck it, Benning." So we're having a tough day.
I mean, I still again, I said it last week, or week before last. I still wonder if there's enough in the kitty to get these 3 players signed. I honestly feel that everybody, I got scoffed at last week on Twitter for saying the same thing. People in circles that I know were reaming me out, saying like, how can we not? But here we are weeks later, still with these guys unsigned. And if they don't sign for some reason or anything happens, the offseason's a failure. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what they're trying to fit them in for, but these guys aren't taking pay cuts.
Yeah, apparently they're not close in negotiations either.
And why would they be close, really? Right? I mean, we can't ask them to take less money. The Canucks can't ask them to take less money because they've done a poor job at constructing their roster.
Yeah, it's not their fault.
No, it's not. It's not their fault that they're signing fringe defensemen to $2.5 million contracts on 4-year deals, or you're paying third line wingers $3.5 million, or you get rid of a guy like Ben and then you bring somebody on that's similar. What are we doing here? You're wiping away the problem and then making a new cut. It doesn't help anything.
I have a good idea. So they do the father's trip and sometimes the mother's trip, right, every year. Remember, Bartowski, his mom was like a big hit, right? If they do the mother's trip in the next year or two, and Tucker Poolman's mom comes on this trip and he scores, we're gonna get to see Mother Tucker Poolman. That's gonna be great.
You should just bring Bartowski's mom back.
He probably could. I know he's not on the team anymore, but would you mind? Would you want to come to a trip to LA with us? Absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. So Brady, do you feel? You felt pretty confident when we spoke last about this, that a deal was going to get done. It seemed all good, no worries. Are you still in that same mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I am, and further along with that interview, Pettersson said, he's not a part of the negotiations, but they're not close. But he's confident. He's fully confident that they'll have something done by the beginning of the season. So I'm just going to stick with that. I think there is money there. It's going to be extremely tight. But worst comes to worst, if we have to move money out, I still don't think we're going to. But there still is that option. So
don't you get the feeling that if the Canucks have X amount of dollars to spend, three key players to lock up still, and there's X amount of dollars, that it means that there's not enough in what's available to them to sign these players? Because I'm assuming they're going right up against the cap to make this thing work.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think these players are going to stick to their guns and kind of get as much money as they can.
That puts them right up against the cap.
That's what I mean, though. Do you think?
But I mean, they will be
over
100%.
the cap or under the cap.
They'll be right along the line for sure. But I don't think we're going to see. Jim Benning can't afford to go into the season with one of these players not signed and playing and ready to play. I mean, I don't really have much else to say on that other than I still think they're going to get something figured out. But we're just going to have to wait and see.
It makes me suspect that they didn't leave enough to sign these 3 remaining players.
That would be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at cap friendly right now. You can move some money around with the latest Levy signing. It's down right now. It's with a pretty big roster. They're sitting at a shade under 13.5. So yeah, that's not too much money for 3 guys. But like we said before, like we've talked about this quite a bit. There's the Ferland money, and obviously there's a couple players you can send down as well. So we're still looking around that 19 million range. So I mean, you can give one of those guys 9 million and go from there.
Do you think that if it got to 19 million with the Ferland contract being moved down and then other guys being papered back to Abbotsford, do you think that we're looking at these 3 players combined possibly taking up more than the 19 mil?
I mean,
that's what I feel like.
Like Dickinson's going to be in that 2.5 kind of.
I think 2.5, maybe a little bit over. It just depends on
more
term.
than that. I think he's guaranteed to make more than Poolman.
I don't think he's going to make 3 though. I think a lot of people are seeing around the 3 million, but I just don't see that for a guy who has never even scored double digits in goals.
But you know what? 250 grand in this case is a big deal.
I know, and isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're Dickinson and you're known as like one of the premier shutdown centers in the entirety of the NHL, and you haven't scored double-digit goals, definitely Brady, you're right on that. And you have a defenseman in Tucker Poolman that's making 2.5 million. That's what people are estimating you at. And then you have another guy on the roster named Tanner Pearson who's making 3.325 or 3.25, who's also a third liner. I mean, don't you think that you're at least around that or close to it?
Yeah, maybe you're right. Right in the middle, like 2.75. I don't see him being. I see him being closer to 2.5 than I do to 3 million personally. But I mean, I'm no expert. But I mean, if we want to keep it,
you were one for a while.
Yeah, you were one.
A side expert. Yeah.
That's Bob's kid.
That's Bob's son. Yeah. But I mean, if you guys want to, I think we'll leave it at the Pettersson. We'll leave it at that. Like, I think there's still time. He's confident. But I mean, we should talk about Quinn Hughes and kind of the big contract that everyone's pretty shocked about that could really affect Hughes's contract. I mean, all the defensemen are signing for more money than anyone would have thought, but this Darnell Nurse, holy crap! Someone else want to take it away from me?
Why did he get so much money?
Is that because he signed 2 bridge deals? I mean, he's getting paid I would say 3 million too much.
But they signed Duncan Keith, or they traded for Duncan Keith, and we remember Ted, you and I I don't even think we got in a word for 30 seconds because we were just laughing. And he may have a good season, but you go and sign Darnell Nurse for that kind of money. It was 9 mil, right?
Yeah,
9 point. Was it 9.5 or 9.25?
He's in the 9. He's in the 9 conversation with Seth Jones.
But he got paid more than Makar. Did he not?
I'm pretty. Yeah, he did. I'm pretty sure it was 9.5.
What world are we living in? What world is this where Darnell Nurse is getting more? And I'm sorry, the Connor McDavid argument doesn't fly with me. You do not get that kind of money. You're not in that same tier as a Cale Makar and a Miro Heiskanen. You're just not. Did I say Heiskanen? Yeah, that's the guy I'm thinking about, right?
Yeah, 9.25 with a no movement clause for the first 5 years, which is nuts. You know what I love about this though is as bad as we can feel about the Canucks, we can look at this and we can laugh. We can look at the Edmonton Oilers and we can go,
I don't want to.
There's a bunch of bad contracts going around, 100%. There's obviously this Nurse one is terrible. The Seth Jones one is really bad.
They're all bad. The Cale Makar is a good one. That's it.
The Drew Doughty one is obviously bad. The Cale Makar one's genius, right? I mean, if the Canucks can get away with doing that with Hughes, they're in a great spot. The OEL contract is really bad.
But how does it look now, though? But how does it look now?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's age, but he's also 30 compared to a 26-year-old defenseman. So I will say that out of those guys, it's possible that Nurse has the best chance to live up to expectations, even though he will still 100% fall short.
Oh,
just because of what he does defensively. His good season last year was an outlier in terms of points.
I mean, again,
but these still aren't great. They start great.
God bless him for getting that contract, man. If you can sign a deal like that, all the power to you. I mean, live it up, man. That's amazing.
And is it strictly? Sorry, go ahead, Ted.
Oh, it's still better. The OEL contract is still better than that. Simply because we have another team taking on a portion of it, but even at $7 some odd million, it's still not a great contract, right? It's still
no way. No.
It's still pretty awful if we're really being honest about what a guy's going to have to put up points wise to live up to a $7 million contract.
So how much do these back-to-back RFA deals play a part in this? I know we're not going to go back-to-back with RFAs for Petey or Hughes, but it makes you kind of think, do we want to do these bridge deals now? Because when you the bridge deal, obviously these guys are getting overpaid, man. Like,
yeah, you're right.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think he's worth?
Who?
Quinn Hughes?
No, Nurse. Like, what do you think is realistically his number?
Well, at least $2 million less.
Yeah, I'd say closer to 3, but yeah, 2 to 3 million less. Like, he got overpaid, like big time.
Yeah, I put him somewhere between the 6 and 7 range because of the amount of minutes that he can log and how he can help your team out defensively. Like, I think if you look on natural stat trick, I think he's he holds his weight above water, right? He's better than a replacement player, obviously, right? But offensively, that's where the issue falls for me, because I don't think, and I could be completely wrong, he could have turned the corner and turned himself into a reliable offensive contributor. I think that it's an outlier, and I think that it's probably not going to continue to ascend past this season for what he did offensively. That's just my opinion.
Like a Louis Eriksson contract. He got his 30 goals.
That's a really bad one, but yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean, though.
We're not even talking about Drew Doughty and the amount of money that he's taking from the Kings year after year either. So,
for sure. But I mean, he got 2 cups and two gold medals.
And this is what I'm talking about. Like, you can't pay guys for winning cups. Like, I don't care what they did. If it means that you have to keep them on your roster to handcuff you for the next 9 years, see you later.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's the other thing people need to start thinking about too. Like, you're definitely right, Ted. Paying guys after they win. So if you've won 2, unless you are, and maybe you're absolutely convinced you can win 3. But I mean, if you've won, unfortunately, as a business, we don't necessarily need you anymore. Like, if you won 2 cups, like, hey man, like, we got in while the getting was good. We're more than happy to make sure that you have a great new team if you don't want to be here, but we're not going to pay you what you probably deserve to get paid, because you already did the exact thing that we'd be paying you to do, and that's win a Stanley Cup, and you've done it twice, so thank you very much.
You guys want to hear something funny?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm looking at, I was talking to these guys at work about this, and it's not technically their first line. We'll say it's their top power play unit for the Oilers. You put McDavid, Draisaitl, Nurse, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Hyman together. That is half the salary cap. That is 40, almost like it's just shy of $40 million.
Thank God for them.
Could you imagine, like,
thank God for them.
PP1 goes down and like, who's on 2? We don't know.
We need to get some Oilers guys on this podcast so we can see what they're thinking about, like how they, because we've been the laughing stock for years now.
And still kind of are.
And we still kind of are.
And that doesn't even include Duncan Keith.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, he won't be on the first power play.
Even though we've been the laughing stock for the last little while, somehow, against all odds, another GM came along and did an even worse job.
Yeah.
Way worse.
That's wild.
Benning looks like a freaking gangster in this situation. His summer compared to Ken Holland's, like, holy crap. Night and day.
Unbelievable. Brady, you had a little poll question that you put up on the account.
Yes. Yeah, I think we're going to try to start doing like a weekly poll question. I think it's just kind of something we want to do to get our listeners a little more involved. So, Ulevi signed. He didn't go with his qualifying offer, which was actually like 25,000 more than what he signed for, which was a 2-way deal, obviously. So he's betting on himself, gets the 1-way contract at league minimum $750, 1-year deal. So I put it up on our question of the week. Will Ulevi prove himself worthy of being an everyday NHL player this season, or will he be outplayed by Jack Rathbone and Brad Hunt? Options were yes, he will prove himself. No, he needs to move on, or it's just too early to tell. And at the end of the day, yes, he will prove himself. Yes, he will need to prove himself, or he will prove himself. Sorry, came in at 60. Options? Yes, he will prove that he's ready to outplay Rathbone, or no, he needs to move on. And the third one is it's too early to tell. Actually, our listeners are believing that he is ready to prove himself, and that he will actually, in fact, be our 6th defenseman this year.
Wow.
Which I thought was pretty surprising. But it's like for me, it's just as a Ulevy supporter, I want to see him do well. So I was glad to see that we have some fans out there that want to see the same thing. If that will actually happen, I'm not sure, but I'd love to hear your guys' take on it.
Go for it.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of times, you guys know me. I don't always judge it solely based on the player. I judge the player and the contract, and what kind of bet you're trying to hedge here, right? Because we could talk about the fact that OEL might be the second best defender on his team, but that his contract might not dictate so, right? So I think if you look at a guy like Ulevy, I said this earlier when the signing first happened, it's league minimum. So it gives him a chance to get into the roster over a guy like Rathbone, over a guy like Hunt, when clearly, we just talked about it, we're going to be 100% right up against the cap, when every dollar is going to count week to week. And we've seen the Canucks have to go through this when Gilman was here, moving monies around, making sure guys are being papered back and forth. So that's going to give him an advantage to get into games. And I think probably maybe games that he might not even deserve at that point, but it's going to give him a chance to get into those games so that he does prove himself to win this spot. And at this point, if he's a $750,000 former first round draft pick, I'm okay if he's patrolling our bottom two pairing, because I don't really care what the past is at that point. I care about what he's going to do on the roster currently. And if he continues to pan out at that point, I'm not sure, but the bet was placed correctly. So that's where I am with this. I think that there's talent there. I think that he can still turn his game around. I think injuries have hurt him. Brian Allen, if you guys remember, Brian Allen went through a lot of this with injuries. Probably could have been a better player than he was, but he's still a very serviceable defenseman that played a lot of years in the NHL, former first-round draft pick that was hampered by injuries early.
But what he did early was amazing. I called him career killer because every time he hit a guy...
Oh, yeah. He hit that guy into Brendan Morrison and hurt them both. Yeah. We had like Buzz Killington, I think Clever Hands 1981 on Twitter. Yeah. When I posted that tweet earlier, he was like, he's a lock. I mean, this guy thinks he's a lock. It's Rathbone that's everyone's darling, but he's going to be sitting in the press box. So he believes he's going to badly outplay Rathbone. And he's the same thing. He's been hurt pretty much his entire development. Benning is smarter than people give him credit for. Ulevy is a top 4 D-man on this team by midseason. I think that's really high praise.
Top 4 that's bold.
I don't think we're going there. I can appreciate what Buzz is saying. Obviously, there's potential and ability to do so.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really smart signing for a player that you've invested some previous stock in, that you at least know what you're getting. So I'm okay with it.
I like the deal only because I guess for a lot of the things you said, Ted, is that, yeah, you're right. He's going to get sheltered minutes because he's essentially on that third pairing. So they're going to put him out where they know that they can trust him. I mean, he's not a terrible hockey player. He does have definitely a lot of talent. That being said, he's had a lot of things go the other way with him, whether it be injuries or what have you. So I think a healthy training camp, and I mean, the last 2 years have just been, I mean, there's guys like Nate Schmidt that had a bad last year and a half too, right? So there's even some of the star players haven't exactly had things go their way. And I think a guy like Ulevy, do I see him absolutely panning out? Maybe not. But at the same time, I'm willing to give him a chance. I'm willing to see him in games. Maybe you're right. He doesn't belong in, but because of the cap, he's forced to be there. And if he's your 6th defenseman or 7th defenseman and you're putting him or Rathbone in, I think that's a pretty good option to have, as opposed to putting someone in. You're like, oh man, we don't have a choice. We have to put so-and-so in. And to me, that's okay. Like if that's who you're cycling in on your 6th man for defense, that's an okay problem to have. Mm-hmm. The Canucks are clearly not a Stanley Cup contender. They're going to be fighting for every single game this season. As far as, the standings go, they're going to have some gimmies, obviously. But to have Ole Ulevy out there and probably be able to see him progress properly if he is healthy and he carries through, there's probably a chance for him to do a lot more damage than he's shown. And as the 6th defenseman, that's about as prime as you're going to get. Like, you can't really ask a whole lot more. And he's not making a ton of cash, so you don't feel bad either way. Like, if things go good, hey, man, it's a bargain. If they don't, you know what? Like, we're still okay with keeping you in the press box, and we can bring you in tomorrow night if need be.
Yeah, it's the optics, Ryan. You're 100% right now, because if he goes the way of Virtanen in previous years and you re-up and cash in a little bit, Now people are expecting that much more out of him. People are looking at him like, yeah, he was a first round draft pick, but he doesn't carry that expectation anymore.
He's not an eyesore though, like Virtanen was. Like Virtanen would come to camp out of shape. Like Juolevi wants to play.
He wants it,
play, and he's just been snake bitten with these injuries. And I think that's a big part of why he's signing what he's signing and why he's had, why the opportunities he's had hasn't exactly panned out. If everything went the other way and we started out with a healthy Olli Juolevi, I bet we're talking about a different player. Maybe not an ideal top 10 player potentially, but I bet he's a lot different player than we've seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This signing really led me to something. And I was thinking about, since we're so close to that 81.5, or we're going to be, right, when we try to sign Pettersson, Hughes, and Dickinson, right? If it came down to it, and it was Rathbone who outplayed Juolevi, do you think Benning's at a point where I wouldn't say happily, but do you think he would be okay with putting Juolevi on waivers? Or do you think that's something he's not willing to do yet? And this one-way contract automatically gives Juolevi, whether he earns it or not, the upper leg on Rathbone.
Yeah, I don't think they put him on waivers. I think they trade him if that's what it comes to. You can't. It would be another. This is my 2 cents. It's one more guy that if you put him on waivers, you've basically given up at that point, and you've been able to send another guy away with no return. And I think we've seen it way too many times. And he's finally bought back some of his stock in all the haters and in all the things he's done. He's finally done a massive cap dump. And obviously, I was thinking about it today too. Arizona made a lot of that deal because it was actual money going the other way. And Vancouver worked out because it was cap money going the other way. So they kind of helped each other out in a way, because obviously Arizona isn't exactly bringing in the cash. So actual dollars make a big deal, and they don't have to pay a lot of money for the guys that they received, whereas the Canucks do, and the cap hit is a little bit better. So, I look at both of these, and I think based on that, Benning's finally done a few things in the good, and all of a sudden, if he goes right back, and I know it's Olli Juolevi. I mean, this isn't groundbreaking stuff. This isn't going to break the team, but it's one more guy that if they put on waivers, someone's going to claim him because he is good enough to be on someone's team. And I mean, if the Canucks are finally going to give up on him, oh man, hellfire and brimstone too.
I guess, I mean, let me rephrase the question then. I mean, obviously, because if you're in that time crunch and you're also in that cap crunch and you need to get under that cap when the season starts, you're obviously going to be trading him away if you've made that decision for lesser value than what you want to get for him. So that's kind of my question. Is he willing to do that yet? Is he willing to move on from Juolevi if he has to?
So I'll take my run at this. And I believe that he is willing to move on from Olli, and he is willing to trade him, and he is willing to throw him on waivers. However, Olli signing that league minimum deal makes it way more difficult for Benning to A, want to do that for him, or B, need to do that to move him. So I think that puts him in good shape. He's made some signings on this roster in the form of Hunt, guys like that, some solid veterans, Luke Schenn, that he knows can play at the NHL level, that he knows has bottom pairing chops to play, and it's not going to be an issue. Brett Hunt's a very good defenseman. I don't think there's not enough people that know that. So
I heard he could play forward too.
The guy can do a little bit of everything, right? So, so the player is 100%. He can move on from him, and I don't think he's got an issue doing that. The contract says otherwise. That's that good bet that I'm talking about, right? And Ryan, to your point of saying like, look, I don't think he wants any more bad press. Move on from another failed draft pick. If they put a guy like Olli on waivers, he's going to get snapped up. Former first rounder. All you have to do is look at a guy like Madison Bowie on this roster, and he's in the same situation, went through the same things, a very similar player, and he's still not in the NHL, and he could just very easily end up on another roster somewhere else sitting in the number 7-8 spot, and nothing will change.
But I think you can't necessarily put that on like a Madison Bowie that, like, look where he got drafted. They weren't having failed draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
He got drafted to Washington, right?
Yeah.
They weren't having failed draft picks. They were having the opposite of that. So
but it's not like he's making a ton of money, so he could
it's
not somewhere on a roster, right?
All I'm saying is it's not the player and the money. They both came up different ways. They have the same kind of trajectory as far as where things are going.
The pedigree's different. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So like if you're coming up from Washington, like, oh well, we didn't make Madison Bowie work. Life's gonna go on. In Vancouver, it's like, no, we don't have Stanley Cups to talk about. We don't have Alex Ovechkin and Backstrom and all these guys and massive success year after year after year, trophies after this, after that. You know, this is the Canucks that have struggled for the last 10 years. Very different. So that one player is like the straw that I'm not going to say the straw that broke Campbell's back, but it's, you know, it's forcing it a bit.
The bet has been placed on Ole, and it's the right bet to place. But there's already four guys sitting on this roster that could ultimately take his spot, and I don't think anybody misses a beat. And I don't think that Ole's going to outplay Rathbone. I just don't.
Yeah,
I think there's too much offense there to walk away from the possible deficiencies that Rathbone brings.
But I mean, when you look at the roster, people would argue that we have a very offensive-minded back end. So maybe it's a guy like Julevi that you're hoping that he can, you know, bring enough defensively where that offense that Rathbone's going to bring doesn't matter as much.
They'll both get opportunities for that for sure.
So sort of. I am of the mindset that you can't have enough offensive defenders on your, and that by having the puck all the time.
Like drafting running back.
But as long as they can play defense too, right, Ted? Like as long as they can play defense too, because defense comes first.
Well, sort of. I mean, but you don't need the guys you don't need the Chris Tanevs of the world that are strictly defensive defensemen anymore because if you have the puck all the time, and that's why puck possession has become such a huge thing, right? Why Corsi's such a thing, right? Because a defensive defenseman doesn't give you that. Granted, you should be able to defend in your own end.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of people seem to forget that defense is a team game. It's not just your defenseman, right? It's a whole team. Right. It's forwards too, right? So I see what you're saying.
And defending is just having the puck, right? I mean, getting the puck back, breaking out of your zone, moving into the offensive zone, scoring chances eliminated.
There you go. I got one thing to talk about. Did you guys, either of you guys hear Travis Green's interview on the Vancast this week?
I listened to a little bit of it, not too much. I got to my destination and ran out of time.
There you go. Yeah, attaboy. It was really interesting because Travis Green opened up a little bit, and anybody that's heard any of his interviews, he's not exactly forthcoming all that much, but he did give a little bit of insight into how this team is going to be this year. And with guys like Podkolzin coming into the lineup, obviously having Luke Shen back, having Rathbone, adding Connor Garland, as far as our podcast is concerned, PP1 podcast, their power play, both 1 and 2, that'll be the farm team. Maybe we'll have like a farm team podcast, PP2.
Yeah, PP2. There you go. Nice.
And wow, how old are we? He was just discussing that he's got guys like a guy like Connor Garland can be, he can be a bumper guy. He can be your down low guy. He can be on the point. Like they've got enough versatile players on even the first one that it can actually carry over now to that second unit, which actually last year definitely had times where the second unit actually got stuff done because they wasted so much time on the first one. So I think having a full season essentially of Höglander, adding Podkolzin, which I don't think is going to get any PP1 time, but he definitely could, flirt with the second unit. I think they've got enough guys on that top unit where they're versatile players. There's maybe unique style in a bunch of these guys. I haven't really seen a whole lot of Connor Garland, so I'm not going to speak like I know how great this player is, and I know he is good, but I would love to see him fit in a Canucks jersey just to see how he meshes with his current teammates. I'm excited because I know there's a lot of potential on that top unit. Obviously, even on our top two lines when it's 5-on-5, but now you actually can carry over and you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket on that top unit. You can actually blend a little bit over to that second unit, and you're not really downgrading that much because you've got enough guys that can get the job done on either one. Hopefully it gets all done in one, but now maybe you can go with 3 and 2. Maybe you can have 3 forwards and 2 defensemen again, 2 guys patrolling the blue line, or maybe you just have a solid defender on each one and you just overload on all the talent you've got up front. So I don't know, whoever has the hottest take, by all means, run with it. But I'm kind of excited for the fact that it sounds like this team is willing to make a push and put more of the emphasis on that special teams when they've had so many opportunities to do so last season.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I think as a podcast, remember back in the day when we would have a little update for the power play every week, and it was actually fun because the Canucks were like in the top 5 all the time.
And then
I think that's that actually has a chance to happen again. And I mean, I think we might have talked about this last week, like some possible combinations, but I really do like the idea of Garland coming up to the top unit and actually. I know I was big for Miller playing third line center for a little while, but you move Miller down to the second center position on power play 2. And like you were saying, Ryan, I actually really dig, maybe trying to put 2 defenders on that unit. You go with like a Rathbone, OEL combo, and you've got Hoglander and Punkholzen on the wings. That sounds pretty nice to me.
I mean, it's a possibility, right? There's enough weapons there that you don't just overload one and you have just your stinkers, whatever's left over. So it's nice to talk about that at least. And we're not just thinking, man, they better get it done on that first unit. Whereas now they can cycle 2. Mm-hmm. You want to see that top unit score, obviously. That's the bread and butter. That's where you're going to have, the best talent. But you can also have a pretty quick moving second unit as well, which I think is also going to carry over into their PK this season. I'm excited to see that. So
yes.
Ted?
Yeah. I think there's 3 defenders that I feel really good about putting on the power play. You guys named them, right? Obviously, it's Hughes, it's OEL, and we're probably looking at Rathbone as the other guy. And I think that you're probably looking at 7 forwards that could play on the power play at any given time, right? So I think that's okay if we want to use one of those guys and we move them away from a download position and put him on the power play. I mean, we saw Virtanen sitting out there for periods last year, even the year before that. So I'm okay with experimenting with that. I don't like the idea of having a Myers on the power play.
He'll be on the second worst case.
He's going to have to get his minutes somewhere, right? And he does have the ability to play the power play, even though I don't think he's as much of a threat in there as probably another forward might be. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm really excited to see what happens with Connor Garland and how he impacts Bo Horvat and how he also impacts Nils Hoglander, because he's kind of a cross between those 2 players, right? He's a shooter, a lot like Besser is, but he's also a sort of smaller water bug guy like Hoglander is. So it's very unlikely that we're going to see, in my opinion, that we're going to see a Garland and Hoglander on the same line together. But then if you're going to have 2 shooters playing on the same line together and a guy like Besser and a guy like Garland, who's that center in that spot? Is it Horvat? Is it Miller? Is it Pettersson? Do you want Pettersson not to be the shooter on the power play? Who's going to be the distributor for that guy, right? So even Miller himself can be pretty selfish on the power play and be that shooter, which I love. So don't get me wrong. It's almost the fact that it's less about the wingers and more about the fact that we have 3 scoring centers instead of, playmaking centers, which is kind of a bit of an anomaly when it comes to NHL rosters.
Shooting centers, you should even say.
Do you think there's a chance that where the second unit would maybe go for more of a like shoot from the point kind of style, and you got big guys like Miller and Podkolzin, then like the feisty little Hoglander crashing the net and trying to get garbage rebounds? Or do you think they kind of go for more of an umbrella and similar attack as the first unit?
I think that it's going to be umbrella just based on how well all of those guys can move the puck. So I feel like they're going to umbrella, they're going to overload. I don't know where the bomb comes from, right? I mean, Hughes was a shooter a bit last year, but even most of his goals that we saw when they scored, it was about movement. It was about getting the defenders to move left, right. It was about getting the goaltender to move left, right before either he took a shot and went opposite or he hit a guy backdoor, right? So I feel like, although I love the idea of a big shot from the point, I mean, who doesn't watch Weber and get a hockey boner, right? I mean, give me a break. So I'd love to see the bomb. I don't know where that bomb comes from because I'm not sure that it's Myers, and he probably might have the biggest shot existing on the team, especially now.
Myers is the bomb. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, Tyler Myers. I don't think Miller even makes it to the second.
Good cue though, Brady.
You think? What do you think? Horvat drops down?
No, I think he's there. I mean, it's tough because you're right.
Because I mean, who do you have a center if you're keeping your PP1 the exact same as it was last year? Who's your power play 2 center, right?
What happens?
You're not gonna have Dickinson out there.
what happens after a big contract signing from Petey too, right? I mean, all he's done is improve every year on the face-off as well. How much better does he get from year whatever to this year? I mean, is he a viable option? Does he turn into a 53% guy on the face-off? At that point, how do you move him away from the center spot?
Yeah, I guess at that point you don't really need Miller either.
Yeah.
I think you put Bo in the second unit.
But Bo was our number one power play specialist last year.
That's true.
That's where he scored his points. And I mean, if you're going to go for a more offensive-minded Horvat with the acquisition of Dickinson, I mean, I think you got to have him. You got to have him on your first unit.
Listen to what we're talking about. We're talking about the virtues of what went well last season. Like, hey, we have too much good over here. How do we keep the good here? I don't want to move the more good over here. This is great.
I like the idea of Horvat, Garland, Höglander, even though I said that I don't think that the team is going to keep those guys together because two small guys. But it's very clear to me that Horvat is a shooting center. And to me, all Höglander has done is show what he does to get the puck back in that sort of Jannik Hansen ilk, right? Yeah. The way that he forechecks, the way that he moves, the way that he's a bit of a pinball out there. And when you have a guy who can do a little bit of both in Connor Garland, I feel like there's great chance for success there.
Love it. You had a gasp there, Brady. Did you have a comment?
I was just gonna say, I was listening to Sat Shaw on another podcast, and he was saying that he doesn't think that Garland and Horvat are actually going to mesh very well. They're both kind of shoot first mentality players. I can't speak on Garland too much, because like Ryan said, I haven't watched too much on him either. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see, obviously, to see if that chemistry forms, but it's just great that we have so many different options. And I think that was another part of what Green was saying on that Vancast as well, or maybe it was another interview, but it's just good to have all these options. I've been writing down line combinations almost every day, and it's just, we're excited for hockey this year. And it's crazy to think that.
You're right, B. And we haven't even talked about the fact that there's still a guy like Plug Colson who's been lethal at on the power play with his peers. And I think with the right training and working with the right players, I mean, that shot that he has is ridiculous, and we haven't even seen that yet.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be fighting like, oh, this guy, like we're going to be at the point again where that's where this podcast was based. The idea of the PP1, right? Like that was always the talk for the Canucks, like who was going to be on that top unit. And we've kind of almost come full circle again where that is what we're talking about, which I think is super awesome, because in the last year's like, well, as long as someone does something, I don't really care. But now there's actually there's enthusiasm about it. You're hearing it in the media as far as, interviews down on whether it's 650 or on other podcasts. Like people are talking about the potential for the man advantage, which they had many chances last season. So I think it's good news. It
makes me feel all warm inside, and it's not just the fact that it's 41 degrees in here right now.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool down here in the basement in the man cave. It's very comfortable. I'm quite a fan of what's going on here. So.
That makes one of us.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I could care less if you guys are uncomfortable. So we're at about the hour mark, and people stopped listening to us, I'm sure, at some point. So I was just going to mention, I kind of had in our rundown, Ted, you're looking like there's a fly about to
eat. Did you guys see that ridiculous play at the Dodgers National or Dodgers Phillies?
The slide?
Was it just like the slide at home plate and how clean it was?
It was just smooth criminal. I mean, he slides. First off, he's Trey Turner.
Like Michael Jackson out there.
Yeah, ever since he left the Nats. I mean, when he was playing the Nats, he didn't get the cover that he deserves. He might be the fastest player in baseball. But for him to first off be able to get that base and steal home, get to home on the play, but then the fact that he did it so nonchalantly. If you get a chance, anybody, go check out this Trey Turner.
I've seen it like 100 times.
It's good. It's good.
You could stick it on a GIF and just watch it over and over and over again.
Like sliding into some DMs, that'd be the perfect.
That's what it looks like. You're 100% right.
That's the new.
It was so nice.
DMs. I love it.
I could try to slide 100 times and not just get up off my feet like that so smoothly. It would never happen.
But I mean, Ted, you and I, we've got 2 ball teams, right? And in our
T-ball.
Yeah. One of them. So that's our third league. We don't.
How else do you think I get hits?
Yeah, I'm batting 100 in that league. But I mean, we're allowed to steal in that league, right?
Yeah.
And slide and blah blah blah. there's never been an opportunity, let alone even if there was, to slide that smoothly. Like if there was a microphone on that, I doubt you even hear any gravel, any,
No.
there's no dirt sound. It's just
it was Ken Griffey Jr. backwards hat at the All-Star game. Cool. And I'll
It
put
was.
Pat Ferguson on that one.
It was.
It was like
He was on ice. It looked like.
if there was an Olympic event for that, he'd be a gold medalist.
For smoothness.
Oh yeah.
For smooth sliding. I love it. I love it. Speaking of baseball, and then we'll probably cap out. We had our rec league game on Monday night. Ted and I. We had the 9:45 game. I pitched for that team, and things didn't go so well on the defensive side of the ball on either team. I believe the final score was like 25-23.
So we got back, yeah, and they did a download of the score. The score was 29-30.
Oh. Okay, so it was worse than I remember. It was who can get 3 outs instead of 5 runs. That's pretty much how that game.
Yeah, it's a work team. We're not very good.
But it's fun.
We couldn't defend it all.
No.
And basically, what had happened, we were going through our 7th inning collapse, and the power went out
at 11:15 on the dot. All of a sudden, like the big spotlights, all of a sudden, boom, pitch black.
It went from so bright to we couldn't see anything, and the only reason I found my way back to the dugout was because Nelly was playing on the stereo.
That's true. Was it batter up? Was up? I think
it was batter up. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had just got a hit over me. This is like talking about fantasy football. No one really cares, but they had just got a hit off me because we just needed 3 outs. I think I had 1, and it goes pitch black. And I'm freaking out, as is everyone else, because I don't want someone to throw in the ball because now everybody's a target at that point. So everyone freaks out. We all managed to get our cell phones with the lights out, and that was the ball game.
And we won the game.
It was the
power going out.
It was the most anticlimactic way to finish it. But folks, just as a word to the wise, and I'm sure it happens in hockey rinks too, where they shut the lights out. Finish the game on time. Have a final result is basically what I'm trying to get at. So. B, if you're out here, we should try to get you in the game if you happen to make it
100%.
past,
I'd love that
past
for
the
sure.
COVID law and past whatever variant we'll be at that point. But
yeah, man, Barry Bonds it for you.
Hey, if we could probably use it because Mr. Barry over there, he ruins it for everybody by getting the home run, and then we're not allowed to hit one after that. So, and then he goes and bats.
Way to go, Ted.
Then he goes and bats on the other side of the plate.
Yeah, I've never gotten so much flack in my life for hitting home runs.
Then he goes and he shows off and hits the opposite.
He does.
Jeez, what a show off.
He is a show off.
Come on, Ted.
Guys, it's slow pitch. They're literally lobbing the ball to you.
They are literally. They are. So, Ted, any final words?
No, man.
I think Brady, any final words?
No, man.
Well, I have to close that. I have to. No, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. Obviously, your podcast. What?
Over under on Pedersen and Hughes, one or the other, locked up by this time next week.
No.
Under.
I'm
going to say under as well. That wasn't any fun.
Yeah. Over. Petey signs.
You're an idiot. Okay, close this thing off.
Thanks everybody for listening. We're on the Dean Blundell Network. You can find us basically wherever you can get a podcast. Make sure you follow our Twitter and our Instagram and our personal ones as well, because we're all exciting people away from the podcast, believe it or not. Brady's got some pretty catchy stuff. Ted's got jokes that still go over my head somehow. Lots of good footage, I hear. But make sure you check us out. And our summer skates should be arriving any day now. So there are a handful of pairs that you can buy $29.99 because as soon as they go on the website, they cost more. And I believe there'll be koozies as well with those. So make sure you hit me up in the DMs, and I will be sending away those prizes from our 100th episode. We've had a bunch of stuff happen over here, and I also had holidays. But we'll make sure those are going out either tomorrow or the next day. I promise. I've already got them in boxes. So on behalf of Ted in the one corner, Brady on the bottom, I'm Ryan. This is episode 102 of the PP1 podcast, the summer edition. Peace out.
See you next week.
Much love, y'all.